Throughout my secondary practicum experience, it has changed who I am as a teacher in many ways. This course focuses on teaching at the middle and high school levels. We focus on Understanding by Design by Wiggins and McTighe, Strategies to Engage the Mind of the Learner by Rachel Billmeyer, and Abrahams and Abrahams. During the time of the course, our class would observe and hold class at John Witherspoon Middle School. Throughout our time there, we observed and taught a 6th grade general music class for 45 minutes, 5 days a week. We created lesson plans that revolved around connecting the students' world with the information they will be learning in the classroom. This creates more value for the students to learn. Being able to apply the 6 facets of Understanding by Design in my teaching, I have learned how necessary they are to children's learning. All students learn and understand differently, but the 6 facets must be performed so the teacher can properly assess that their students are grasping the content of the class. First, we have explanation. If a student is able to give an explanation of what is being taught in class, then that is a form of understanding that the teacher knows the student has. Facet number 2 is interpretation. This type of understanding tells the teacher that if the student is able to put meaning to classroom information, then they are understanding. Next is interpretation, which is when students are able to use the knowledge in class and utilize it in real-life situations. Facet number 4, perspective. This is when students are able to create their own points of views on different topics in class. Also, this is when students can answer questions from different perspectives. Facet number 5 is empathy. This one is believed to be probably one of the most difficult for students to achieve. It is when students are able to gain understanding of another person's feelings. And lastly, we have self-knowledge. This is when students can refer to their metacognition in understanding how they feel about certain topics and why. Also, they are aware of who they are and what they know. These facets have students thinking critically rather than searching for the correct answer. What is helpful about the 6 facets is they are all tools of assessment, and they go hand in hand with the 3 stages of backward design. Reciprocal teaching also integrates Understanding by Design. The elements of reciprocal teaching are predicting, questioning, clarifying, and summarizing, and connecting. Reciprocal teaching also has students thinking in a critical manner instead of searching for the right answers. Instead of the teacher summarizing and clarifying classroom activities, the teacher will ask the students to accomplish those tasks. This is because students will understand better if they are able to explain what they are learning or doing. All lesson plans included 4 learning objectives. First, we have behavioral, that place assessment on an activity or ability that creates an understanding that students should be able to accomplish. The cognitive objective is to ensure the thought process that the students are going through that are connecting to the lesson at hand. Next, we have experiential, which names the experience the students will be going through at the lesson. Lastly, we have the critical objective, which can also be considered as the wrap-up of the lesson. This objective is to ensure that students will be able to perceive their world and things in their world differently. This objective is to show students that certain classroom knowledge can become valuable and applied to their own lives. During this course, we had the opportunity to visit other high schools and middle schools within the area. We were able to construct lesson plans for choral rehearsals, ensemble rehearsals, and other levels of general music. We also had a really great experience visiting a school for students with special needs, which included from dyslexia to autism, and we learned different ways of how to teach these students with these differences. As a teacher, I believe that in the classroom, we are there to facilitate our students to learn social skills, teach them new knowledge, and help them to discover who they are through free and intuitive thinking. Teaching our students to believe in themselves and who they are will create a sense of trust in the classroom where students can be themselves. In order to bring out our students and show their highest potential, we as educators need to create an environment where students are more comfortable and where they are able to achieve independent thought. During this, they are learning about their fellow classmates' experiences. The younger students are primarily more closed off in their own worlds and do not understand the thoughts and views of their fellow peers. If we can have our students learning about the different perspectives early on, then they are more able to learn and appreciate the differences of their other fellow classmates. Also, based on individuals' experiences, we as teachers can help our students to follow their intuitive feelings. Students enter the classroom with previously learned knowledge based on their personal experiences, and these experiences can be a great tool in getting students to think with their intuition. Helping students to be confident and self-aware is a solid first step in good teaching, which lies within intuition of the student, empowering of our students, and creating meaning in the classroom for students and their teacher. In regards to the INTAS standards, throughout my education, I have learned how to meet every aspect of every standard. I have taken all 3 method courses in teaching and able to apply all parts of those methods throughout my lessons. I have learned how to create lessons based around the student's world, which can make the lesson appeal more to students and become more valuable. For example, the Seuss lesson that my practicum class constructed used the students' familiarity of Dr. Seuss to learn about individualism and how to be open to new things. I've taken many courses in general psychology and educational psychology to learn about student and child development. I have learned how to monitor students through summative and formative assessment, as well as creating rubrics and standards to watch my students progress. Also, during my teaching method course, I have learned about 4 types of learners from Bernice McCarthy's Teaching Around the Format Cycle book. Through the 4 types of learners, we have Type 1, who generates learning around their feelings and watching. Type 2s are very analytical and like thinking through ideas before acting upon them. Type 3s are very hands-on and enjoy experimenting. And lastly, Type 4s think outside the box and learn by trial and error. However, we should not label our students as type numbers, but keep in mind that many students can have all these same similar traits. Throughout the 4 objectives, behavioral, cognitive, experiential, and critical, we can help all diverse learners. Through motivation and management, we have learned throughout my education how teachers act towards the class is how the environment of the class will set itself. If the teacher is very organized and very aggressive, then the classroom should not have any behavioral issues because the atmosphere of the classroom will be very procedural based. Also, to encourage social interaction, we want to place students into group activities often. Even though most students do not like working in groups, it's a good experience for everyone to have. Communication and technology I've learned a lot about during my secondary practicum. We learned about questioning strategies through understanding by design and reciprocal teaching and how to get students to critically think versus looking for the right answer. Having technology in the classroom is very important, especially when our students' lives currently generate around cell phones, iPods, and computers. So why not have them in the classrooms? In music class, we have seen schools that, as well as taught lessons using GarageBand as an enabler for composition. For standard number 7 planning is a large part of my education at Westminster Choir College. There is a lot of focus on writing top-notch lessons, which include 4 learning objectives, a 4-part lesson process that we must go through, a focusing question, and an assessment section. Throughout both my elementary and secondary practicum experiences, I have learned how to think on my feet, if lessons need to be altered, or if something does not go as planned, I am able to act accordingly. For assessment, I have taken the course Assessment for Music Learners and received a high passing grade. I have learned every way how to assess my students in every way possible, not only music related. Assessment, I have learned ranges from peer-on-peer assessment to student performance assessment. Through my reflective practice and professional development, I have accomplished many observations at all levels of the public school system. I have attended many seminars, some dealing with Orff, Brazilian choral music, and improvisation. For the past year, I have been working with my church's children's choir that ranges from 1st to 8th grade students, and there I have been able to practice my choral techniques as well as my teaching techniques. Lastly, dealing with school and community involvement, I myself am an active in my college community. I work for Alumni Relations at Westminster Choir College. I am also a sister of Sigma Alpha Iota chapter at my school, as well as our MENC chapter. Back home, I am very involved with my church and my community. I cantor some Sunday masses, as well as help out with the team band and the children's choir. I am still very involved with my high school's music program, and some nights during the week I help my formal choral director holding sectionals for his select choir. My plan as a future secondary music teacher, I hope to use all of the tools that I have gained from my secondary class and apply them to my future teaching. I hope to create a program that is as successful as the programs we visited during my practicum experience. I want to have my students critically thinking about music and to instill lifelong musical values. Creating lessons that my students can relate to will help in my process of having students view music as a class rather than an elective that they have to take. In aspects of being a secondary choral teacher, I hope my students to find an appreciation in singing all types of choral music. I want to find a balance between music that I believe every secondary choir should sing and music that my singers want to sing. I plan to have a successful theater program as well. I want my students to have the ability to experience all types of music, not in just choir alone. I also hope to influence my students to want to continue music outside the classroom and throughout their lives. Although my main focus after graduating from Westminster Choir College will most likely be at the elementary level, I plan to teach at the middle school level and high school level as well. After my secondary practicum experience, I have discovered that teaching at the secondary level is something I definitely want to pursue in the future. Thank you so much for watching my video blog.